The Atlanta Braves should go get Jordan Montgomery from the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I'll tell you why next. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Friday, November 15th, your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on Twitter, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and Instagram as well. You can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com. That is the Braves Today Substack. This is both a podcast and a newsletter. I want to thank you to everybody who's been here all week, all month, and is going to be with us all winter as we break down this Atlanta Braves team, what they need to do, how they can get back to winning the National League East. And there's a couple things we're going to go over in this show. It's a bunch of different smaller topics. Who is the clubhouse leader now that Travis d'Arnaud is gone? What does the new television deal and the emergence from bankruptcy of Diamond Sports mean for the Atlanta Braves going forward? We're going to get into some of that stuff, but first, I had a question sent in from listener Mark Taylor, who threw out what I think is a really interesting trade idea that seems right up Atlanta's alley. He proposed the Atlanta Braves sign Griffin Canning to a pre-arbitration deal so that he's not just floating out there with an iffy arbitration amount, and then trade him and some low-end prospect, and that's really, he left it vague, to the Arizona Diamondbacks to get Jordan Montgomery, with the Diamondbacks covering $5 million in Montgomery's salary. This is a really interesting idea. I love the idea from Mark. By the way, if you have ideas for the show, questions, things like that, trade proposals, lots of ways to get them to me. Twitter works. YouTube comments. You can email me if it's something longer. contact@bravestoday.com. Jordan Montgomery objectively had a terrible season in 2024. He's been traded multiple times, coming off of multiple playoff runs, right? He got traded to St. Louis in 2022 after leaving the Yankees. He got traded from St. Louis to Texas last year. And he was expecting and wanting a multi-year deal as he entered his age 31 season. Instead, he did not sign until, I believe, in the middle of spring training. I want to say, was it 1 year, $25 million with a $22.5 million player option for this year, which he did exercise much to the chagrin of the owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks. He opted in or exercised the player option here because his performance last year, he was 8-7 with a 6.23 ERA, which is gross. The worst season of his career, I'm not counting 2019, he literally pitched 4 innings, okay? In 2020, at age 27, he had 10 starts with a 5.11 ERA. Outside of that, his ERA has been in the 3s or the 2s in every other campaign of his season until then. His strikeouts were down to 6.4 per 9 innings. That was a career low. His walks were up to 3.4 per 9 innings. That was a career high, minus the 27 innings he threw in 2018. His home run rate was 1.1 per 9. His hits per 9 was it was a rough go in just about every possible regard for Jordan Montgomery. Now, there absolutely is reasons to think that he can improve. One, it's very clear now, spring training is important for a pitcher, right? Again, he didn't pitch at all in spring training last year. Obviously, it went so well that he fired Scott Boras. But also, there's a couple things where you can see where the environment of Arizona wasn't the best fit for him. So, none of his stats from last year are good. Understand that, okay? But 6.90 ERA at home in Arizona, 5.50 on the road. So, obviously, that ballpark, which has turf, it is one of the fastest infields in the game. He is a ground ball pitcher. So that was arguably the wrong place for him to play. He is over 40% ground balls in every season of his career. He wasn't Max Fried level over 50%, but his primary pitch is a sinker. He's a sinker baller guy that's pitching to contact, and he just, like, it was really hard for the Diamondbacks to make those plays. Ketel Marte was banged up for part of the year. Eugenio Suarez, I think, is fine at third base, but isn't amazing or anything. Christian Walker's great at first, yes. But that it's very hard to play really good infield defense in Arizona. It's a very fast track. You saw, again, what he did on the road versus at home. Another data point there. Yes, his ERA was atrocious, 6.23. But another data point that the defense wasn't helping him, despite having reputations of being good defenders, his fielding independent pitching, which I'll remind you is a version of ERA that controls only for the things the pitcher can control. Strikeouts, walks, home runs, hit by pitch, right? It strips out what the defense does. Jordan Montgomery's fielding independent pitching was 448. Still not great, mind you, but closer to some of his career numbers. And if it was almost 2 runs lower than his actual ERA. In a lot of ways, this fits the profile of what Atlanta likes to do. Going out and getting guys who have struggled in other unfriendly or bad roster ballpark fits and getting them to Atlanta. Now, I'm not saying this is not without risk. His sinker was 1.5 miles slower this year. He averaged 91.8 on the sinker compared to 93.3 in 2023. You got to figure out where that velocity went. Was it because of his slow start? I have not, full disclosure, I have not pulled the month-by-month trends to see if maybe his velocity got better throughout the season. You can see the result and what that did to his overall numbers. His sinker allowed a 255 batting average in 23 and a 374 in 2024. He flopped the usage, he ramped up curveball usage, and he minimized his changeup usage. His curveball was one of his better pitches. It was his best pitch in 2023 as far as a 191 average allowed. Gave up a 270 this year. Again, some of that is the velocity that he probably lost. He went down about 1.5 miles off on the curveball from where he was before. He dropped below 80 miles an hour on it. Some of that was just a bad season he had. There are some questions here, right? He completely stopped throwing the cutter. The cutter wasn't great in 23. He threw less four-seamers. When he did throw them, they were, he threw more four-seamers, but they weren't as hard. 92 miles an hour compared to 93.4 last year. So where did that velo go? Can you get the curveball to get some of the movement back? It was more of a death ball type shape in 23 where it was breaking almost straight down. In 24, it added a little more horizontal movement. He also very rarely throws a slider. He didn't in 24. Or he used it, He used it 2% of the time in 24. He didn't throw it at all in 23. That's an area Atlanta's been pretty good at either getting sliders on guys or improving their sliders. So I think that's an area where Atlanta can legitimately make Jordan Montgomery better. You have questions here, mind you, but you can absolutely see how this would make sense for Atlanta. Because you can go and look at both relievers and starters. These are the kind of deals Atlanta likes to make. 2 seasons ago at the trade deadline, they went out and got Pierce Johnson. Pierce Johnson was not good in Colorado. Working out of their bullpen. It wasn't quite an even split. He was sort of a little bit more curveball than fastball. But he had a 6 ERA in 43 appearances in 2023. Atlanta brought him in at the deadline, and they said, we want you to throw that curveball like 80% of the time. He went from a 6 ERA in Colorado to a 0.76 down the stretch in Atlanta in 23 and 2/3 innings. 0.76. Now, he overperformed his fielding independent pitching with Atlanta. He underperformed it with Colorado. Caveats there. But that's an example of reliever. They went and got him from a suboptimal situation. His best pitch, he wasn't using it enough, and it didn't work as well as normal because of the effects of the altitude in Colorado. Chris Sale, last offseason, another situation where, for different reasons, it wasn't working out in Boston. They not only got Chris Sale, they got, between reworking his contract and the money that Boston included in the deal, Chris Sale's salary was entirely paid for by the Red Sox last year. And what did Atlanta get out of it? They got what is likely, we'll find out next week, what is likely to be a Cy Young caliber season. We did find out last night that Chris Sale officially is the comeback player of the year, and he was all MLB first team. So these are the kind of deals AA likes to make. I do absolutely think that getting Jordan Montgomery is a great idea. Whether or not they trade Griffin Canning to do it remains to be seen. If you go and you get Jordan Montgomery and you trade, if you do have to trade Griffin Canning to do it, you're still looking at a rotation as of now with no other additions. Chris Sale, Ronaldo Lopez, Spencer Schwellenbach, Jordan Montgomery, and then from there, you have choices on your fifth starter. It could be Ian Anderson. It could be AJ Smith-Shawver. It could be Hurston Waldrop or Drew Hackenberg. Eventually, you're going to get Spencer Strider back. We don't know when, but it would give you options. And if you determine that you can't necessarily fix Jordan Montgomery, he can walk at the end of the year. You can move him to the bullpen if you need to. That's what they did last year with Montgomery. They put him in the bullpen late. But also, I think it's worth pointing out, he also fits the demographic of the guys that sign extensions with Atlanta. We keep talking about this. He grew up in Sumter, South Carolina. He went to the University of South Carolina. South Carolina is Braves country. This is all speculation. I don't know this for a fact, but he feels like the type of guy that would have been influenced as a kid by watching the Atlanta Braves on television as a kid. He's 31 years old. He was born in 1992, so he was a young kid during the heyday of Maddox and Smoltz and Glavine. And if he's driven enough to be a professional baseball player, he probably has fond memories of watching the Atlanta Braves and watching those guys and the ability to be part of that rotation, to wear that same Atlanta across his chest as those pitchers he watched as a kid. Especially, he's a lefty. You need a lefty in the rotation. Tom Glavine works for the broadcast team. He can help with this. It is entirely possible he may have an emotional connection to this team, to this organization, to this franchise, and be willing to sign an extension. That would give you another, at best, if he works out, you sign him to this deal, that would give you another guy that, again, if it works out, you would feel comfortable with him starting a game 3. He is a guy in his career, he has been somebody you were not afraid to throw in a postseason game, right? He actually has been pretty good in the postseason. He went 2-0 with a 1.29 ERA in 2 starts against Houston in the ALCS last year. He threw 7 shutout innings against the Tampa Bay Rays. This is 23, sorry, not 24. 7 shutout innings against the Tampa Bay Rays in the AL wildcard in 2023. He's been good in the postseason in his career. So the idea, I don't hate the idea of trading for Jordan Montgomery. Even if they don't include money in the deal, I still think you can do it, although I don't think you need to give up Griffin Canning if they don't throw money into the deal. If they throw money into the deal, I'm okay with giving up Griffin Canning and a low-level prospect to do it. I love this idea from Mark. I'm 100% down for this. In just a minute, let's talk about this new television deal, what we know, what it's going to do for Braves fans next season. We'll do that next right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby answering your questions about trading for Jordan Montgomery, about what's this new TV deal, what's going to go on in the clubhouse without Travis d'Arnaud, and things like that. And this came up, I got a couple questions about this on social media yesterday, both on Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm trying to learn how Blue Sky works. Now that Atlanta has withdrawn their objection to the Diamond Sports Group bankruptcy plan, they filed an objection. Them and MLB both filed an objection last week to the plan. They have now withdrawn those objections, and Diamond Sports Group, their reorganization plan out of bankruptcy, has officially been approved. So what changes here? They already said they were going to pick up the Braves. We don't know if they originally indicated it was going to be the same financial terms. So we don't think Atlanta has had to take a pay cut on the TV deal. It was already seen as being one of the better TV deals for Diamond, not for Atlanta, meaning Atlanta was underpaid, okay? But what changed in this is now Diamond Sports Group has the streaming rights in market for the Braves. Previously, how this worked, and I'm sure lots of Braves fans remember this from the frustrations we had this year. What was then the Bally Sports South and Bally Sports Southeast, now called FanDuel Sports Network South and Southeast, carried the Braves games. If you had a cable subscription, you could log on to their app and watch the games with a cable subscription. If you didn't have a cable subscription and you lived in the market, your only option was to watch it on your cable provider. And there's sometimes your cable provider didn't even show it to you. They had a issue with Comcast for months last season where Diamond Sports Group and Comcast did not have a carriage agreement. And so Braves fans in market could not watch the games. Even now, that carriage agreement is done. Some providers in some areas still don't cover the Braves. Atlanta Braves fans in the state of Alabama who have YouTube TV cannot watch Braves games. YouTube TV in Alabama does not carry the former Bally, now FanDuel Sports Network channels. When they made the deal with Diamond, when they had a carriage dispute, when they resolved the carriage dispute, I want to say going into last season, part of the change they made was they weren't going to offer it in some of the outlying areas of the Braves television market, which is geographically one of the larger ones in the eastern half of the country, right? Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, part of Florida, the Carolinas. They get a little bit in Mississippi as well. Like, it's a big area. But people in Alabama, I have friends who have YouTube TV in Alabama and couldn't watch. Now, starting in 2025, if you either do not have cable or live in one of those areas where you have YouTube TV or whatever, but they don't carry the Braves, you will have the option to pay directly to Diamond Sports Group and stream Braves games in market. The caveats here is we don't know yet what that's going to look like. We don't know where it's going to be housed. Is it going to be in the standalone Diamond app, which has been rebranded FanDuel Sports Network? Is it going to be part of Prime Video, which is, Prime Video, Amazon stepped in and did some of this work with Diamond. Indications are if it's in Prime Video, it will be, obviously, you have to pay extra for it. It's not part of the standard Prime Video subscription. What is it going to cost? We also do not know. I put in the roundup that we published on Braves Today on the Substack this morning. If the pricing's the same as the Hawks, which I'm not convinced it will be, because there's more games for baseball. There's 162 games for baseball. There's 82 for hockey, or 82 for NBA. If the pricing is the same, it's $19.99 a month or $6.99 an individual game. Which, obviously, if you're going to watch 3 games a month, it's better to just buy the whole package, because if you do games individually, it's $573 a month. If that same pricing was in place for the Braves, and again, I don't know if it will be, because you get more games with a baseball subscription than you do a basketball subscription. The per game cost, $6.99 a game, would be $1,132 a season. Again, no reason to do that. Do the monthly, but what is the monthly going to be? Is it going to be $19.99 because you have 162 games and not 82? Is it going to be $25.99, $30.99, $39.99? We don't know. We'll get more information about that in the spring. But the good thing here is you do have more options, or you will have more options to watch the Braves than you had going into 2020. You will have more options in 2025, which is fantastic, because it's been very frustrating trying to watch Braves games for fans of the Braves. I've talked to a lot of people who had to listen to the radio call, and I love Ben Ingram. Ben Ingram's been on this show before. I love baseball on the radio, and half the time I'm not there and I'm watching on television. I have the TV muted and I'm listening to the radio call in an earbud anyway. But it should be a lot easier now to watch Braves games next year, although the question is, how much more will it cost you? Another thing here, with the move of Travis d'Arnaud to the Angels, something to watch is going to be who steps up as a leader in the clubhouse for the Atlanta Braves. This is now another offseason where they've seen turnover in that veteran leadership group. Freddie Freeman ran that clubhouse. When he left after 2021, there was a void for leadership on this team. Dansby Swanson stepped up a little bit more into that role, taking over Freddie's mantle of, we're going to play every day, do things the right way, etc., etc. Dansby left after 2022, and a different type of leadership, but still leadership, Travis d'Arnaud became the respected veteran leader of the room, right? At least on the position player side. Pitching's a little bit different. Pitchers are different animals, especially bullpen guys. But for the position player group, Travis d'Arnaud was the veteran in the room. The leader of that room. Who steps up in the Atlanta clubhouse for 2025? I want to believe it's a combination of Matt Olson and Austin Riley. I don't know, and I have no reason to think that they would not be willing to be leaders. It feels like those are the two guys that need to step up and take a leadership, more of an active leadership role, active and vocal leadership role, now that Travis d'Arnaud has moved on. Marcell Ozuna is still there. Marcell Ozuna is also a leader in that clubhouse. He does. A lot of guys that we've talked to over the last couple seasons have discussed what Marcell Ozuna was able to do for them with a tip, an observation of something he saw, a pep talk, things like that. Marcell Ozuna, despite what fans outside of Atlanta may think about him, is respected in that clubhouse and is a leader. He's also in the final year of his deal, right? They picked up the club option. They could always re-sign him next season, but there's a possibility he walks in free agency. There is the potential. There's a leadership void right now, having lost Travis d'Arnaud, and there's the potential for the other part of that leadership group to be gone after this season. This is where you need Matt Olson and Austin Riley to step up as vocal leaders in that room. They're both signed long-term. They both have the experience in the game, both with the Braves and in baseball in general, and the production to back it up and the work ethic to back it up to command the respect of everybody in that room. There's other options. Sean Murphy can be a leader in that room. Michael Harris can be a leader in that room. Ronald Acuna Jr., Ozzie Albies. Ozzie Albies is the longest tenured Braves player right now. So there's plenty of options in there. But this feels to me like Austin Riley and Matt Olson need to be the guys. We'll see what happens. This is going to be one of the chemistry things I'm going to be parsing people's statements for and looking around when we're in the clubhouse and just seeing how people are interacting and who's doing what and all of that. We'll see what happens here. But I'm really intrigued to see on the position player side how the Braves replace the leadership of Travis d'Arnaud, just like they had to replace the leadership of Freddie Freeman and replace the leadership of Dansby Swanson. This has been Braves Today for Friday, November 15th. If you're listening on audio, do us a favor, leave us a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell when we drop the next episode. Also leave us a 5-star review. Either way, tell us some positive things you'd like about the show so we can help other people discover Braves Today. And until next time, until Monday, this has been Braves Today.